Winters, California is, well, it's such a small community, the city limit signs are almost back to back. The last census gave us 2,000 people, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was about the same size 100 years from now. My name is Newt Wallace, and I'm the publisher of the weekly Winters Express. When I came into Winters, it reminded me of a small Iowa town. I was raised in Iowa, and you might say I fell in love with the town when I first saw it. News happens in the big city, and it happens in the small community too. Last month, a woman hit her husband over the head with a cast iron skillet here, and last June they found a rattlesnake at the corner of First and Abbey Street. All of these things are my business. I reckon you could say that I put flesh on the facts. In 20 years, I've printed over 1,000 issues of the paper, and I don't want to give you the impression that mine is just a peanut operation, because I have 940 proofreaders, my subscribers. Once the paper is in the post office and on the newsstands and in the hands of my readers, that is when I am judged each week by the community as to the product I put out. That's my reward. Sometimes I am complimented on the paper or on my column, or sometimes I am damned. Each week when I'm through with the paper from the previous week, I tear the pages down or take the pages apart, and the lead that is in the page forms I throw into the lead pot. The lead is heated to 600 degrees, and I pour this lead into pigs for the linotype and start the process all over again. I use the same lead week after week, year in and year out. I also cast the mats for the paper. I make lead plates of cardboard matrices of different ads that I'm going to run in the paper the following week. I'm probably what you would call a workaholic. I enjoy my work. I spend more time at my office than I really should or really need to. For relaxation, I guess I'm not athletically inclined. I like to watch sports, but I feel that most of the exercise I get is wrestling with my conscience, or jumping at conclusions, or serving as pallbearers for friends of mine who think that exercise is important. Ida, did the Bureau of Reclamation call in the water reading today?
Yeah. You want to know what they said?
Was the lake up or down?
In a long time, the evaporation is way down.
The Express is what you call a man and wife weekly. There are thousands of weekly newspapers in the United States would come under that category, meaning that it's a business that a man and his wife could handle, but that a man could not handle by himself.
And the last one was in February, where it was as low as that.
Sometimes I think I'm married to the paper and my wife is just my mistress. Other times I think maybe I'm married to her and the newspaper is my mistress. I love them both.
In the creek, they're still releasing some.
Well, I guess make that the lead of the story then.
Yes.
Thank you. Whenever I get the paper out each week, why, I always like to relax. I don't feel like immediately starting in on the next week's paper or tackling commercial printing, so I like to go in and maybe spend the afternoon playing pool with one of my boys.
7 in the corner.
Didn't do it. I think the first job I ever had on a newspaper out of college, the printer and I, on Saturdays when we got our paycheck, always spent the afternoon playing pool. It's almost been a tradition with me.
Well, he's a very competent man in a small-town newspaper. To us, it appears that a man has to have many varied capacities, not only the ability to write and report, to solicit advertising business, to manage the financial aspects of the newspaper, and also to be able to keep the mechanical plant in operation. And Mr. Wallace, I think, is unique in my experience in combining all of these capacities in one individual.
Oh, he comes in every once in a while and has a little nip, and I see him go by, going to work. He and his family, they all work together sort of on the newspaper. And I don't know, I guess that's just about all I could say, because he is a wonderful person to have in a small town like we've got.
Well, Newt's a nice boy. He prints the local news, and we see Newt going down the street, and once in a while he has his head down, hanging low. I don't know whether it's just because of the ad he wasn't big enough he got, or maybe it's just because he's thinking what he's going to put in his paper. Well, as I go along, I holler at him, I say, "Hi, Newt." He'll turn his head around and say, "Hi, Johnny," and on the way he'll go. And sometimes he goes by and he never says a word.
Oh yes, the local paper, it's, I would say, the most widely read publication in the area.
15 in the corner.
It's always read, so certainly we take an interest in it. We can't always agree with the views of the editor, however.
I wouldn't say that he stirred too much controversy. I think he has prodded us occasionally, not necessarily on the political aspects, but on some of the matters of some small concern to us locally.
We have 4 more to go.
It took me a little while to get warmed up.
That they, in acknowledging thy will, might learn to live as brothers with each other. Yea, Father, even with us, and we with them.
Sometimes when I'm sitting in church, I'm afraid my mind sort of wanders from what the preacher's preaching about, and I get to making plans for my paper the following week, or even sometimes I can work out my complete editorial while I'm sitting there in the pew. And since these ideas come to me while I'm in church, I guess you could say they are divinely inspired. But I think churches are important in a community. I don't think I would want to live in a community without a church, and we've encouraged our children to go through Sunday school and attend church so they could get some idea of the religious heritage that we have, and then as they grow older they can make up their own decision as to what part of this heritage is worthwhile and what part isn't.
In using our faith for the good of others in this life. Amen.
I could get it set before 5 o'clock, but then my printer goes home at 5, and then I have to do it myself after that. So.
Well, you work overtime like I do, see.
My
Now
company...
listen, how many turkeys you gonna have for this week?
What do you want to do, trade turkeys for advertising?
Sure, we have to have something, bartering system a little bit.
I got 4 grocery ads this week. I'd end up with so many turkeys I could never eat them
Well,
all.
if you got a turkey, I'll sell you a ham. How about that?
Johnny Chulik is a second-generation merchant here. When I came to Winters, he and his father were in business together in the grocery store, and then when his father died, he carried on. I always enjoyed them because they always tell you what they think. The thing I like about Mike and John's the same way. If they owe you an advertising bill, they say come around and say hello and collect it. Don't just send the bill and through the mail. They want to see you.
Send a girl over to meet you in the alley. Okay, thanks, Sonny.
Fine.
How did they do this one over here that it showed us how to do it?
It's different.
Yeah, but it's the same idea, because this one's 15 hours, and he could plow it alone in 18 hours. So isn't it the same idea? So it would be 2x is equal to 32, x is equal to 16.
Right.
Is that the answer?
Yes.
Let's check it.
That isn't right.
No, it isn't right, because we haven't used the 40. And you've got to use it in the formula.
What's x over 20?
All we've proved is that we can make a
It's x
formula
over
and
20
find x.
plus x minus 12 over 40.
Well, how do you get it to check when... Well, that's because you used a different
Original fraction is
equation.
1/3.
Well, you said it...
Doesn't matter.
Well, what are you trying to prove? And what do you do with that 40 that they've got in there?
That doesn't matter.
You just ignore the 40?
You got
And then
18 on
you
one
get,
side
and
and
with
20
this
on
6
the other.
over here, you get 6.
Well, you get 6 pounds. It's
12
18 minus
minus
20.
What are you asking me for help for?
On the front page of the paper each week, I run a column called Future Subscribers, which I run all the birth notices. And if father gives me a cigar, I put a little asterisk by his name. And then when people ask me what the asterisk is for, I tell them that means the parents have been married 9 months or more. And it sounds like blackmail, but it sure brings in cigars. I've come to realize that the hardest thing about a small business that is owned by just one person, or like my newspaper, is that all the judgment rests on my shoulders. I have to make the decisions. If I owned a large newspaper, I would have 6 or 7 people come flocking into my office, all able and brilliant people, and we could arrive at a decision together. But when a story comes to my attention that I have to follow and research and write, the only responsibility is mine.
Sunday night at 8:37, where was that?
Sometimes when there's rather exciting news happens in connection with the police, if it happens at night, I'll go down in the evening and corner the policeman who actually made the arrest.
Down through the air vent and the roof. It was up towards the front door.
Did you book them?
Yeah, booked a 19-year-old one in county jail at Woodland, and the other one 16 years old. As cars went by, and that way I was able to sneak right up on them within 15 feet of them anyway, before I asked them to turn around. This was the police, and if they didn't, I'd shoot, you know.
Yeah.
So they submitted, and that's about all there was to it.
That's my #1 story for this week.
To me, crime is always a sad thing. It's a human failure, and while I like to report the successes of people and their joys, and it's also my job as historian or the conscience of the community to report the adversities that befall people.
Hey, Harvey. Want to go to the Fritz? Well, we're going to need it this week. Hi, Buck.
Hi, Newt. Hi.
Small towns all have a routine to them, I guess. Maybe one of the routines in winters is that every day at 3 o'clock all the merchants, professional people, head for the drugstore for a cup of coffee. They're all there, the banker, the mayor, the chief of police.
You can do better than that, but
Get the game going. 3 sixes.
That's big.
lay down on the bar.
Three sixes is high, huh? Relaxing part of it is that all of us along the drugstore counter shake dice to see who pays for the coffee.
64.
We got all the
He's got 3 sixes down there.
Got a hole in the roof.
I had a full house.
I haven't had none all
You're a
day.
nice fellow, but you lie about it.
Whoa.
Well, you can't beat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
53. Hey, what's high?
Who's high?
I am.
This is probably our equivalent of the old Cracker Barrel or the old potbelly stove that used to be the center of community life.
Full house.
Who got a full house?
Oh, Johnny got a full house. 62.
We're just going through the motions here with that full house. I always start on my paper on Mondays and gradually increase the tempo. Wednesday is my real bad and busy day. Probably I wouldn't have so much work to do on Wednesday if I wasn't such a procrastinator and kept putting everything off till the last minute. The large metropolitan dailies, there's an awful lot of automation and the jobs are highly specialized. Men will do nothing but punch tape or set heads for the stories or set advertising matter. I like the diversification that my shop offers me. It's not automated. This machinery that I print my paper on most of it is at least 40 or 50 years old. But I sort of like the Arkansas farmer who was taking down his rail fence, rail by rail, and when he got the fence down, he drove his 2 hogs through the fence and started rebuilding his fence. The neighbor said, why don't you put a gate in that fence? And the farmer said, what for? The neighbor said, well, to save time. And the farmer said, what's time to a hog? And that's the way it is with me. I don't think I'd feel right if I wasn't doing all of these jobs myself the way I've always done them. A newspaper has it in black and white. It's not a fleeting glimpse of an electronic tube or the passing sound of a radio wave, but the news is there when you want to read it. It's there when you want to study it. It can be passed on to others exactly as it was printed. It can be filed for future reference. I think the printed word is one of God's gifts to free men.